All right, today Algebra we are looking at Chapter 5, Lesson 2, use linear equations in slope-intercept form. And I'm going to skip this warm-up for the sake of time. I know you can do that independently, and I'll check in with you on it tomorrow. Today's learning goal is to find the equation of the line when we are given 2 points. So there are a couple steps that you'll want to keep in mind when we're doing this. The first step is to identify the slope, which is our letter m in our slope-intercept form, right? We have y equals mx plus b. So if I'm not given my slope, I need to find it. So I can use that slope formula to calculate the slope. So I'm going to look at my change in y over my change in x, and that's going to give me my slope, my letter m. Secondly, I need to find the y-intercept, which is my letter b in the equation. So I'm going to substitute the value that I find for slope into the equation, and I'm also going to substitute the coordinates of one of those points. So I'm going to put the x value in here, and its matching y value in here. And now I have every part of this equation except my y-intercept. So now I just solve for b. Once I find my b value, my y-intercept, I have both values I need to plug into this equation and write it in slope-intercept form. So let's look at an example together. Let's say we are given a point on the line and we're given the slope. Well, I know I want to write it in y equals mx plus b form. So my first step said to find the slope. I've already got that. So I can go ahead and substitute my slope into the equation. So I'm replacing m with -4. Now I'm also going to substitute my x and my y values from this point into the equation. So I'm going to plug in -1 for x and 3 for y. So now the only value I don't know is b, and so I will solve for b. -4 times -1 is +4. And now to get b by itself, I will subtract 4 from both sides. 3 minus 4 is -1. 4 minus 4 is 0. And I still have a positive b. So now for my final answer, I can take my slope and I can take my y-intercept and plug them into the equation. To get my slope-intercept form of the line. Okay, let's look at another example though. Sometimes you won't be given the slope, sometimes you'll be given 2 points. So now I have to find the slope. So remember that my slope is the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to take my 2 y values and I'm going to subtract them. To make it a little easier, I'm going to write these points next to each other side by side. So I have -2, 5, and I have 2, -1. So now I'm going to subtract my y values. So -1 minus 5, and then I'll subtract my x values. 2 minus -2. Oops. And to simplify, 1 minus 5, or -1 minus 5 is -6. And 2 minus -2 is really the same as 2 plus 2, which is 4. So I can reduce this to -3/2. So this is my m. And now I'm going to substitute that into my y equals mx plus b form of the equation. But I'm also going to substitute in one of my points. Now I'm given both, so it doesn't matter which one I pick. Either one it will simplify down to the same answer as I'm solving for b. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this first point, -2, 5. So -2 is my x value, 5 is my y. So I'm going to substitute -2 in for x and 5 in for y. The only value I don't know is b, so now I solve for b. Negative 3 halves times negative 2, a negative times a negative is going to make a positive. My 2 in the denominator and 2 in the numerator will cancel, so this simplifies to 3 plus b. And now I'm going to solve for b by subtracting 3 from both sides, and I find that b equals 2. So now I know my slope, and I know my y-intercept, so I can say y equals negative 3 halves x plus 2. And I have the equation of my line. Now, if I had substituted in this point, the coordinates of this point, I would still find the same y-intercept. All right, and as review, if we are looking for which function has the values f of 4 equals 9 and f of negative 4 equals 7, then hopefully you're remembering from last lesson that when I'm given this information, this is really giving me ordered pairs because this is written in function notation. So I'm really saying f of x equals 9 here. So my x value would be 4 and my y value would be 9. From here, I can find the ordered pair negative 4, negative 7. So if I know these two pieces of information, now I can write the linear function for this equation. So first I'm going to find my slope. So we're going to do the change in y over the change in x. So negative 7 minus 9 over negative 4 minus 4. And as I simplify, negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2. Negative divided by negative makes a positive, so my slope is positive 2. Now I'm going to pick one of those points, so I will go ahead and use this first one, 4, 9, and I'm going to substitute the coordinates of this point and the slope into my equation. So I'm still using my y equals mx plus b form, but I'm going to write it using function notation. So f of x takes the place of y. So f of x equals mx plus b. So I'm going to put 2 in here for m. My x value is 4. My y value is 9. This is what my whole function equals when x is 4. So that goes over here. That replaces f of x. And then I still have plus b. As I simplify, 2 times 4 is 8. And if I want to solve for b, I will subtract 8 from both sides. So I find that b equals 1. So to write my function now, I could say f of x equals 2 is my slope, so 2x plus 1. And if I want to double check and make sure, does f of 4 really equal 9? Then I can substitute 4 for x. 2 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And let's double check our other point. F of negative 4 equals negative 7. Let's make sure that that is true as well. So I'm going to substitute negative 4 in for x. Two times negative 4 is negative 8, and negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7, so it checks out. Sometimes you'll be asked to tell whether the given information is enough to write the equation of a line, and we need to justify our answer, meaning we need to prove it, we need to give some reasons why. So let's say that we are given just the slope and a point on the line. Is this enough information for us to write an equation? Pause the video and take a second to come up with your answer. You may be remembering that we can use our slope-intercept form, and we can, if we know the slope, then we will substitute it in for m, and if we know a point, we will substitute the x and y coordinates into the equation, and that will allow us to find our y-intercept. And then once we have our y-intercept, we can write the equation in slope-intercept form by plugging in our y-intercept here and our slope in here for m. So the slope and 1 point would be enough information. So just to recap, when we are given the slope and the y-intercept, we are just going to substitute those values right into the equation. So sometimes we may be given that information through a graph. So we need to be able to look at a graph and identify the y-intercept and then count out the slope to get from the y-intercept to the next point on the line. So from here to here, I could say, okay, this is a rise of -2, run of 1, let's suppose. The scale isn't labeled, so we don't know for sure, but we need to be able to do that given a graph. We also need to be able to write an equation if we're given the slope and 1 point. So if we know the slope, we can substitute it in, and if we know a point, we can substitute the coordinates in for x and y, and then solve for b, which is what we practiced today. We also need to be able to write equations when we're given 2 points. So we can use those 2 points to find the slope m, and then follow the same procedure we did over here. So let's check out a multi-step problem here. Your gym membership costs $33 per month. Right off the bat, I'm noticing per month, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably going to multiply this by a variable such as m, but it costs that much after an initial membership fee. So I'm also going to add some kind of fee to this $33 per month. I paid a total of $228 after 6 months. When I hear this is making me think of a function, that my total cost is going to equal $228. So my whole function is equal to 228 when x is 6. So I'm really looking at f of 6. After 6 months, this is what it costs. So this is kind of like an ordered pair here. If I put 6 into the function, what I get out is 228. So if I want to write an equation that gives the total cost as a function of the length of your gym membership in months, then I'm going to treat this like an ordered pair, and 33 is kind of going to be like my slope. So maybe so that we don't confuse, let's use the letter x here, and x will stand for the number of months. So what I know is that my total cost, my gym membership, is going to be a function of how many months I'm a member. So it's going to be $33 times how many months I work there, and then plus there's going to be an initial fee. But I don't yet know this fee, but what I do know is that after 6 months, my total cost is $228. So now I have substituted in what I do know to help me find what I don't know, my y-intercept, or in this case, my initial fee. So let's go ahead and simplify here. So when we do 33 times 6, I'm going to solve for b. Oops, sorry. I'm going to solve for b now by subtracting 198 from both sides.